All right. This is a short little video because the film clip does a pretty good job of looking at kind of the contradictions of liberty and freedom alongside enslavement in the Revolutionary era. But I just want to throw out a couple more points about these two documents. So the first there, the freedom petition that you have from Besties and others, is a perfect example of using that revolutionary rhetoric, but then also noting the contradictions. Because look, I put in bold there the key sentence. We expect great things from men who have made such a noble stand against the designs of their fellow men to enslave them. So what they're saying there is it's a direct connection, if you wanted to make it, back to Dickinson's Letters from a Farmer. Remember when Dickinson in Letters from a Farmer said we're slaves to the British, although he didn't put slaves in quotation marks, right? They believed it, even though they themselves were slaveholders, right? We're slaves to the British, white colonists were saying. And so here, what enslaved people are saying is, hey, you're saying you don't want to be slaves to the British. Surely you're not going to enslave us as well, right? We expect great things, right, from those who have made such a noble stand against their designs of their fellow men to enslave them. So again, calling out that contradiction, saying, surely you are going to do this too, since you were speaking out against it. Now, Dunmore's proclamation, there's some fine print I need to point out to you, because on the surface, it looks like Dunmore's proclamation is saying, hey, if you're an indentured servant, if you're an enslaved person, and you join the British, you'll get your freedom, right? I do hereby further declare all indentured servants, Negroes or others, appertaining to rebels, free that are able and willing to bear arms, they joining his majesty's troop as soon as may be. Look at that, those three words in parentheses, appertaining to rebels. That's the fine print of this. What he's saying is if you are the indentured servant, enslaved person, and you're held by someone who's fighting against the British, a rebel, then you can join the British and you will get your freedom. However, if you are an indentured servant or an enslaved person that's held by someone who supports the British cause, what we're going to call a loyalist or maybe a Tory, you can't run to Dunmore's troops and try to fight for freedom, right? So that's why I sort of asked you, is this an honest effort at freedom, or is is this just a war tactic, right? Dunmore isn't all about trying to free people. Dunmore realizes, right, that this is going to instill fear among the colonists who are fighting against the British, because it's suggesting that there's enslaved people and indentured servants should rise up, and it's going to hurt the English economy if enslaved people and indentured servants flee. So again, the key here is this isn't an open invitation to anyone who is enslaved or is an indentured servant. This is only going to apply to those indentured servants and enslaved people who are held by those that are fighting against the British. All right, that took me about maybe 2 minutes longer than I thought it was going to take. But hopefully that kind of clears things up a little bit and provides some context for you when you're watching the Petitions for Freedom and the Dunmore's Proclamation in the film. The film's also going to tell you about Elizabeth Freeman, a really great story that's an example, again, of using the rhetoric of the period to demand change. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.